Suleiman Isah. I want to give you a few minutes to give us your thoughts around this whole conversation we've been having during this whole day around tech, innovation on the continent, what's happening with the diaspora capital, expertise, and it's also your first time in Kenya. So we want to hear everything. Just a few words before we dive into the very many questions I have for you.
Okay. Good afternoon, all. It's nice coming back here. In Africa, one thing is missing: culture. So when we talk diaspora, that's part of the major issue most diasporans have. They lose touch with their culture. So whenever you try coming back to do something in tech, it works everywhere, but because of the culture, it won't work in Africa. So that's one major thing that needs to be discussed. Then, like I was saying earlier, another major thing for diasporans in technology, what we're missing is the politics. Policy is set by the political class. So if you are not on that table, you would end up with policies that would not favor you. So I am an accidental politician. I was coerced into politics, and immediately after the elections, because I was doing data analysis for the candidate. So immediately after elections, I said, I'm done. Politics is a dirty game. I went back to my work, and that's when somebody called me and said, okay, at your age and considering your businesses, you can never grow to a certain level without envy. And when people envy your growth, they would use the same politics you ran away from to stifle your growth. So go back. And that's how I ended up back in politics. And I'm happy for that, because I've now seen that most of those policies, there are two issues of policies, why policies don't work in Africa. One is the people. A lot of people have Africans are generally comfortable with where they are. We don't like leaving our comfort zones. So when you come up with a policy, for example, let's say taxation. I'm used to somebody coming to my shop with a book, and I just, how much? 100 shillings, take. They tear receipt and give me. And now you're telling me I have to buy a smartphone, download an app, register for my tax ID, then have a bank account again, upload my statement, file my taxes and all that. And at the end of the day, I'll still pay the same 100 shillings. I would definitely not want to embrace that. Why? Because that culture is missing. So for technology to thrive in Africa, we have to also do that cultural side of tech for Africa. Whatsoever works in the diaspora where you are based would not necessarily work in Africa. Even our democracy, sorry to say, in Africa is not working. We're used to monarchies. As Africans, we're used to monarchies, not democracies. So having to change government every 4 years is not what we're used to. We're used to having a king or an emir that rules for 20, 50 years. So whatever policy, he has time to make mistakes, review his own policies, grow and all that. Then as kids, unfortunately, my children, anytime they mess up, I just look at them and I'm like, you're lucky for this your generation. The beating we received made us actually become what we are today. So a lot of those things are like that. Then partnerships. Your president has gotten partnerships, right?
Don't start.
We need to do a lot of cross-border partnerships. Kenya has a bit of sanity, or should I say more sanity. If you look at GDP per capita in Kenya, it's higher. For Nigeria, we have a chaotic economy, and we have population of market. Then if your business can thrive in Nigeria, it can thrive anywhere globally. Anywhere globally. That's the beauty of how the Nigerian system is. Let me just digress a bit. If you go Southern Africa and you meet a lady, don't even say hi. Just say, I'm Nigerian. And you get what you want. Why? Because our women have stressed us so much that we actually know how to treat women better than romantic
I know
novels.
you're exporting it everywhere, including taking our women from
Yes.
Kenya.
So,
or is it diplomacy?
okay, we're forming partnerships. You know, the beauty of it now is if Kenya says it's tax-free and I marry a Kenyan, so I know my son has 2 tax residencies, so he will go for the one with the lowest tax economy. So that's the partnership we're doing. So that's why I said Nigeria is so stressful that whatsoever we're doing, whenever we go elsewhere, people think Nigerians, we like carefree life. So for partnerships, we have to build cross-border partnerships as Africans. For still on Nigeria, we have a lot of free money in Nigeria, but we don't trust each other. So we're looking for where to send the money to. Kenya is a very good place to bring that money, but be mindful of the money you collect, because a lot of it could be proceeds of corruption. So you can now go to, let's say, South Africa. Their financial system might be far better than this. So if we form that cross-border partnership, it works in favor of everybody. Another major thing is we're all shouting, whenever you go for any pitch event, GITEX, London Tech Week, African Tech Fest, everybody is pitching for capital. Everybody is opening Delaware companies. Everybody is floating on New York Stock Exchange. We haven't stayed to look at domestic capital that is in Africa. In Nigeria, I know somebody that does a turnover of about 4 billion naira, so that's like 400 million shillings every week, for example. But he doesn't use a smartphone because he does not believe in technology. He believes the day he gets an ATM card, he's going to lose that money. So you can imagine we have that volume of capital sitting in Africa. Look at the people that own the gold mines in Congo, in Botswana, those with the cobalt mines in Congo. How much money are they sitting on? But all that money is either buried in septic tanks at home or in sacks in overhead tanks. That's capital. But all of us are running to register companies outside the country, London Stock Exchange, because we want to pitch for London investment. So we need to do that intra-African and even intra-Kenyan partnerships. Start the advocacy, the storytelling. If I can now tell the person keeping cash, okay, come in as a VC. If there is guarantee for his money, that money will come out. Real estate, yes, it's easy, sort of, for real estate because it's tangible. But for tech, it's not tangible. How can you convince somebody? Then the level of startups folding in Africa, again, is something that is not encouraging for VCs. You'd see after the first, second round, they'll tell you the startup has folded. Well, if it's real estate, I have to see my building. So if it's a government problem, I would still see the crumbs after the demolition. So it's easier. So for technology, it's not that easy, but if we can do the partnerships across continents, across sectors, you have media people doing the storytelling, financial people doing the advising and all that. So we need a lot of partnerships to make tech work. Thank you.
Amazing. Round of applause. That's amazing. And I think you're the true champion of partnership as well. So, little story, because we are so connected in this room. And I'm so glad because you really need to be proud of the work that you're putting in. Because as much as I founded Jasuri Network isn't mine. It's ours. And how this came about was we connected at London Tech Week, and I was doing some work with the UK Kenya Tech Hub. And you reached out, you're like, what's this thing that you guys were doing? And that's how the conversation started. I invited you to Kenya. You said yes, without even thinking twice. So that's true partnership. So you're really about your word. And so I want to go a little bit more into knowing who Suleiman is and just your thoughts as well before we go into the more serious questions. First one, since it's your first time in Kenya, what was your first impression when you landed? Honest thoughts.
Okay. They say there is no honest politician, but I have a problem. I always like saying it as is. My first impression of Kenya started from Addis Ababa when I boarded the aircraft, and the number of people that you had to keep, somebody was on my seat. So let me see your boarding pass. And after I sat down, it was just happening in silos. I was like, is this how Kenyans are? I thought Nigerians were the ones that were like that.
I will say something that, that's Ethiopian Airlines.
But they were mainly Kenyans. Then when I landed at the airport, at first I was like, okay, it's a big airport. Kenyan Air is like, after Ethiopian Air, Egypt Air, South African Air, then I think Kenyan Air on the continent. Which one?
Yeah, the pride of Africa. And Kenya Airways is in the room.
Don't go there. Ethiopia is number one in Africa, then Egypt, then SAA, then Kenya. Huh? I'm a global traveler, so I know what I'm saying. So
Tough crowd.
when I landed, I looked out the window. I was like, okay, good. The next thing, the tube came in. I was like, wow, yeah, it's working. Because let me be honest, in Nigeria, Lagos, we have 2 terminals. British Airways cannot use the new terminal because the tube is too small for their aircraft. So they use the old terminal and you come down, enter bus. So I like, okay, this is working. Just for me to come out of the tube, there's an escalator here, then I had to go down a staircase. Then from the staircase, entered bus. I was like, okay, I'm used to this. The bus now took me to another part of the airport. Then we came out, now climbed staircase again, to another tube, then to the terminal. Like, Mogbeo, it's like Nigeria. Then
Africa is a country. You said that.
coming to my hotel, 5-star hotel, so coming in tired, 3:30 p.m. Check-in is at 12 noon. And the next thing, I have a seat or get your room ready. My room is supposed to have been ready since 12. So that's my honest opinion of Kenya. But hopefully, since I just came in yesterday and I haven't gone anywhere, maybe by this evening and tomorrow, it might change and I'll extend my stay.
Amazing. Cool. Well, a little more serious. What's one thing about Nigerian tech scene you think more Africans need to know?
The tech scene of Nigeria is that more Africans need to know is we are yet to scratch 10% of the tech potentials in Nigeria. As much as we make all the noise, we have all the unicorns. Nigeria is a country of 230, 250 million. So imagine if you can make $1 on 40% of the population per annum. That's very easy. During the first session, I told you we don't have a financing system. Something as easy as smartphone, there is no contract. No network provider provides contract for owning a smartphone. So you can imagine if a fintech breaks into that scene, the volume of money they can make. That's one. 2, like I said again, Nigeria is not a country of what you have or what you know. It's a country of who you know. So going into that space is not as easy as you asking ChatGPT. You ask ChatGPT, I want to start a company in Nigeria. It will tell you it will be done in 48 hours, this, that. I'm not demarketing Nigeria. The thing is, AI models are trained based on data, and we haven't been serious about our data. So a lot of that data that is available on the internet is not what you'd find applicable out there. So you need somebody local, a local lawyer. Don't say you want to DIY. In Nigeria, we don't do DIY. Even if Nancy and myself are going to do a business, I have to call a third party, either come and facilitate or come and be a witness. So, but our tech space is not scratched. And our regulations, which brings us back to policy again, a lot of it is not yet updated. Because part of what I said about the tech people and the new generation staying away from politics is I became a commissioner at the age of 37 in a state, and I was the youngest commissioner. So I had colleagues that were 70. So you can imagine where a 70-year-old is doing policy that would drive tech. So we have a lot of that happening. So you don't just... But the beauty of that is we tend to look away from some of those policies. So we have our own... It's not something... It's in our DNA. So it's part of why you should be happy we are marrying Kenyan women. Our children would inherit that in their DNA. So doing business in Nigeria is not as simple as ABC. But the beauty of it is, for example, in terms of taxes, we have policies that if you do the right thing, we can give you 5 years tax break. Then your filing and co, it depends on how you relate with your tax office. It's not like here that if you don't file on the 15th of the following month, you have your liabilities. In Nigeria, we can decide to say, okay, 2 years later, come and sit, file, and we'll round up your penalty for you. Then maybe you pay 10% of the penalty, and you're good. So doing business in Nigeria can be very simple, but it can be complex if you don't know the right people.
Amazing, amazing. Now I want to take you to this side of Kenya. I know you early in the morning you were talking about M-Pesa, but I wanted to know if you could replicate one Kenyan tech story or Kenyan success story in Nigeria. What would it be?
Unfortunately, M-Pesa is the only tech. How will I say? A tech innovation I know out of Kenya. I don't know any other one again. So you guys are not telling your stories right.
Interesting, interesting. I think Kenya has a lot to offer. Maybe we're not shouting enough.
Yes, that's why I said you're not telling your stories. You see, for example, Rwanda. I visited Rwanda twice after assuming office just to understudy IREMBO, which is a government application. Because the story has been out there, you can incorporate a business, get your licenses and everything in 6 hours. So for us, moving from 3 months to 5 days, we had to use the Rwandi model. But for Kenya, aside that fintech space, I'm yet to hear. So even when looking for case studies, to be honest, I did not see anything from Kenya. So Kenya needs to do more storytelling.
Absolutely. And we have a couple of people in media here. We have a couple of people in government. Maybe we need to tell our stories more. Traffic. I think Traffic is in the house as well. But we're trying. Cool. In terms of, cross-border, because again, you've really talked about cross-border partnership. But in terms of like cross-border tech collaboration, do you wish sort of existed? I know there are a couple of things you mentioned, but I don't know if there's something you'd like to add on the collaborations.
Yes. So an example of the collaboration I'll give is, for example, let me just ask, if a Nigerian is doing business, a Kenyan is doing the same business, who would you patronize? Even if you are not a Kenyan. In terms of trust, Kenyans have more trust than Nigerians. Everybody feels we're scammers. No, we have to own up. So, in terms of collaboration, capital is more expensive. Human capital is more expensive in Kenya. It's cheaper in Nigeria. Trust is more in Kenya, less in Nigeria. So a situation where you do that partnership, your headquarters is Kenya, but your factory or powerhouse of your human capital is Nigeria. So the Kenya entities, let's say you are doing a BPO, The agreements for the BPO contracts are with the Kenyan entity, but the work is being done in Nigeria. So
Interesting.
those type of
Interesting.
yeah.
That's a really great idea, you know. Great, great, great. I want to also to sort of pick your brain. You know, you've been really in the tech innovation space, but in terms of any interesting tech innovation in the last year that you think has been like really great, apart from AI, or and maybe we might just talk about AI, but is there anything interesting that's come up in your radar?
It's the growth of fintechs for me because we haven't scratched fintechs. For example, insurance. Okay, doctor has left. A lot of us in Nigeria, it's mandatory for you to have third-party insurance for your car. But up to today, I haven't seen anybody that has used that insurance. So how the insurance works is if you're in an accident and it's your fault, the insurance company fixes the other car, but not yours. But we are so used to it that we just have it because of the police. So the insurance company goes with that money. So imagine now if we have a fintech that immediately you're in an accident, you open the app, snap the pictures, enter the other person's details, and you have your claims, or you do a video call with the inspector. You are going to steal 80% of the market because of that convenience. So, real estate, I can assure you, everybody that has presented the sponsors about real estate, imagine if you have an Uber for buying Kenyan real estate and you launch it in Nigeria. I can promise you, you sell out in a year. In less than a year, because you'd have a lot. There is so much money in Nigeria that we're looking for how to send it out. No, we're a cash-based economy. If you are buying a house for 100 million, you have to suffer and save your 100 million before you can own the house. Interest rates at central bank is 22%. So by the time it gets to commercial banks, it gets as high as 30%. Then mortgages are 7-9%, but it will take you like 5 years to finish the paperwork for you to get single-digit mortgage. So if I'm saving to make 100 million to buy a house, but I have a Kenyan fintech now offering me a mortgage, single-digit interest rate, and the money I've saved, I can use it as equity to own a property in Kenya and Forex, I would gladly do it. So there is still a lot in that tech space that can be done for those type of things.
Amazing.
Sorry, if I see any Kenyan company that was here do that and I don't get my 10%, we're going to court.
Great caveat. And moving over to the diaspora, maybe this might be the last question before I give it to the audience for a quick question. How can diaspora talent be positioned as a catalyst for cross-border digital innovations instead of being engaged country by country in isolation? Because what we've seen a lot with the diaspora is you have the Nigerian diaspora, you have the Kenyan diaspora, you have the South African diaspora. But sometimes when you find yourself out there, you're just African. They sometimes just bundle us as a country.
Yeah, I always say Africa is a country because I don't even bother explaining where I'm from, because once you're outside the continent, everybody, are you from Africa? Yes. So, but coming down as Africans, we shouldn't even take talent on a country-by-country basis. From my own Nigerian standpoint, I take talent on a tribe-by-tribe basis. Nigeria has over 500 tribes. That's why we're always fighting. And that's why you'd see two Nigerians arguing and fighting. It's when you, the Kenyan, tries to intervene that we now remember we're Nigerians. So the major divide we have is you have the north, you have the south. So the north is predominantly Muslim, the south is predominantly Christian. So one thing we've realized in terms of tech talent is when it comes to coding and co, the north is better because of the memorization that children do of the Quran. They start memorization early. So when it comes to coding, they learn coding faster because they memorize. So when it now comes to business development, ideation, product management, the Southerners are freer. They are more of the people. So those type of talent works better for them. But you see, if you are now taking it on a per country basis, you might now judge based on only one person or a few people from a certain part that you've met. So I'm sure if you now look at Kenya, a Maasai might have something he's stronger at. Then Kiswahili, right?
Yeah.
Might have something different. So for talent identification, I prefer as Africans, we do it by tribe and culture, upbringing.
So several factors to consider as well.
Yes, a lot to consider, not just the So we can't do a one-size-fits-all for the continent.
Absolutely. Almost 1 billion people. How do you do it? In terms of looking forward, what is exciting for you? Looking forward in terms of the future for Africa, in terms of future for African diaspora as well.
Okay. For African diasporans, or should I say for Africa in general, is for me, what I'm looking forward to is a situation where we stop exporting physical talent. So you don't have to jagba. You should rather jagbada. You can still, okay, so in Nigeria, when we say you jagba, that's you've gone. Then when you jagbada, is you've gone and come back. So a situation now, thanks to technology and globalization, no matter the field you are, not just in tech, you can work remotely. So the major thing is keeping the capital within the continent. Unfortunately, we, the political class, are still looking at sending the money out of the continent. For me, I don't have a problem with if you steal the money, keep it. Because the money, one way or the other, it will still be stolen. We are going into financial agreements with some certain countries that, okay, we are giving you X amount of loan, but we don't see the money. Rather, they will bring in whatsoever we want at the amount they want, while we will now suffer to work and pay for that. So diaspora talent and diaspora people that have left are the ones probably working for these companies over there. So why won't we come back and develop our own? Turn Africa to the headquarters, and we can do our remote offices or branch offices outside the continent. But we have to take ownership.
Amazing. It's been amazing having you in Kenya and, at the Jasuri Network Africa Summit. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.